So you're new to Genshin, you're doing some 10 pulls on the current banner, and you get 5-star Wanderer. Now what do you get with the Wanderer besides the character that you can name anything you want, like Flyboy? Well, Wanderer is a catalyst-wielding Anemo user who is really, really good at overworld traversing with his skill, as well as doing a lot of Anemo damage. And in this video, we are going to look at the basics of Wanderer. What you need to know about his kit, how his skill and his burst work, and how he works with other elements. Because his passive does something different depending on what element you swirl at the unleash of his skill. We'll get into that. But in this video, we're gonna look at the basics of Wanderer. So just like we do in every single one of these videos, we are going to look at the current build of the current character that we are using for this video. Thank you, Soup, one of my mods, for allowing me to use footage of your Wanderer in this video. So Soup's Wanderer is named Flyboy, and I may call him that throughout the video. So his HP is 17,000, his attack is 2,099, just a little shy of 21,100, EM 126. His crit split is 50.8 over 158.8 with 111.7 ER, and he does have an Anemo Goblet. He is running Solar Pearl R2 level 80, and his artifact set is going to be 2-piece Pavilion, 2-piece Shimenawa. He is C0, and his talents are 888. Now because he is a 5-star, we're not going to look at constellations like we do with the 4 stars, but we are going to look at his talent passives. So his first passive is upon the unleashing of his skill. If it swirls or comes in contact with an element, it is going to get a different effect. So for Hydro, it is going to increase the point cap of his skill, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Pyro is going to increase his attack. Cryo increases crit rate, and Electro is going to mean that he gets more energy whenever he does a normal attack or a charged attack. So that's going to be really, really good if you don't have a ton of energy recharge. So what this allows you to do is kind of put the elements in your party to fill in the gaps in the build. You want more attack? Pyro. You want more crit rate? Cryo. You want more energy? Electro. Now, his second passive is going to be that whenever he is in his floaty state from his skill, whenever he does a normal or charge attack, he has a chance of gaining an effect. Whenever you sprint while you're in his floaty state, it will unleash arrows, or there's a chance that will unleash arrows doing Anemo damage to enemy based on his attack. If you don't get it upon using a normal charge attack, it just increases the likelihood of you getting it the next time. And I'll point that out as we use his skill. So now we're going to actually go look at his skill and his burst and how it works. So his normal attacks, being a catalyst, are going to always be Anemo infused without shenanigans. So we're not going to be doing shenanigans in this to get physical damage from a catalyst user. So it's always going to be Anemo swirling anything if there's elements there. Now his charge attack is going to do like an upward hit, doing Anemo damage in a small AoE. So now we're going to look at his skill. Skill's going to do a couple different things, and we're going to kind of point it all out as it's happening. So whenever we use his skill, he is going to do an AoE Anemo hit. Then he is going to fly up into his floaty phase, as I have deemed it, TM trademark. And while he's in his floaty phase, his normal and his charge attacks are going to do more damage. They're going to have a bigger AoE, they're going to do more damage, they're going to be more powerful, also dealing Anemo damage. If there's any elements, it will swirl them as well. Now, whenever it comes to that passive, depending on what kind of element, it is upon the unleash. Whenever you hit his skill and he flies up, that first AoE Anemo damage is what determines what of those passives you get. It says up to 2. So if we have Benny and we hit an enemy with Pyro and then we use the skill, you'll notice that we will get an attack buff. Right here you can see that his attack is higher, he does have an attack buff. If we use Hydro, then it means that he can have more of his floaty points, his little stamina bar over here that determines how long he can fly for. It increases the cap of those points. If we do Electro, whenever we do normal and charge attacks, it is going to be giving energy to Wanderer or Flyboy. You're going to see a lot of energy coming at Flyboy as he's using his normal and charge attacks. If you use Cryo, then you get a 20% increase in crit rate. You notice it was 50.8 before, now it is 70.8. That is just an overall 20% crit rate. It's not crit rate on the normal or charged or burst, it is just overall raises his crit rate. So depending on what you might be lacking for Wanderer or for Flyboy, then you can put that element in your party to help alleviate some of those problems. You're not using your burst enough, throw an electric character in there. You want more attack? Pyro. You want more crit rate? Cryo. You want to invest more into crit damage? Cryo. That's how this works. And it says you can get up to 2. I could not make it trigger 2, probably because I was using Raiden, so it was like always doing Electro as one of them. And then if I got the attack, I wasn't getting the crit rate. If I got the crit rate, I wasn't getting an attack. I think it was because I was using Raiden and just instinctively clicking her skill. But you can get 2. Now we are going to look at his burst. And his burst is just going to do a very large area of AoE anemo damage, dealing multiple instances of anemo damage upon the hit. As you can see, it is going to kind of lift the enemies up, doing several instances of anemo damage. Something else, if you are flying, if you are in his floaty mode, and you use his burst, it will immediately end his floaty mode and it will drop you back down. So do be conscious of that. Don't hit his skill and then immediately use his burst, because then you're not going to be in your floaty mode anymore. You need to make sure that you're using his burst at a different time. So looking at a basic or a beginner artifact set for Wanderer, 4-piece martial artist is going to be his best set. The 2-piece is going to get up your normal and charge attack, and then your 4-piece, after using your skill, is going to increase your normal and charge attack even more. For the main stats, you want to go attack percent or EM if you want his swirl damage to do more, anemo damage goblet, and then crit rate or crit damage, again depending on what you need more of, always remembering that if you use him with cryo, you will get a 20% crit rate increase, meaning that you should be able to invest more into crit damage. For weapons, we're not really going to talk about 3 stars, because you have 2 really good craftable weapons and some battle pass weapons. So Solar Pearl is a really good battle pass weapon. It gets up crit rate, which is going to be good for him, as well as him being able to use the passive, because he's going to be using his normal attacks and his skill back and forth. The skill will just make his normal attacks stronger. So that can be a really good option. So for craftable options, you do have 2. You have Flowing Purity, which will get up his attack percent, which he'll like, but then upon using his elemental skill, you'll get an elemental damage bonus, which can be very good. It's just going to give him more anemo damage, which he can use a lot. The other craftable weapon, Mappa Mar, I believe is going to be his better 4-star option, or his best free-to-play option, because it's going to get up Elemental Mastery, which you're going to be swirling elements anyway, so that'll help that. And also, upon triggering an elemental reaction, it's going to give you an elemental damage bonus of 8%, max of 2 stacks, and you can very easily trigger 2 swirl reactions, getting that extra 16% ammo damage on him. And like I said, the elemental mastery is just going to help his swirl damage do more. Now, something like the Widzith, we're going to talk more about in the artifact grinding hell video, so do be sure to check that out whenever it comes out. So while all of this is going on behind me, I want to talk about what Wanderer can do. Wanderer can be a very good on-field anemo damage dealer. So I'm specifically saying on-field damage dealer because Wanderer requires you have a lot of off-field elemental application, because once you're in his floaty phase, you cannot swap to another character. You're stuck until it ends. So you have to set up everything before you go into his floaty phase. If you want to use Benny's burst to raise his attack, you got to use it first. If you want to use Layla's shield to help the resistance interruption, which he is very prone to, as I'm sure you're seeing behind me and earlier, then you have to set that up before. Farazan, C6 Farazan can go really well with Wanderer, even in a swirl team, just to increase his overall damage, increase his personal anemo damage. You got to set that burst up before you go into his floaty mode. So you have to make sure that you get your other elements on the field first before activating his skill. 1, to get the passive, if you want the extra attack, crit rate, energy, whatever it is. You want to make sure that the elements are present, so that way you can activate the skill, getting the swirl, getting the bonus, go up into his floaty mode, and then just start going to town. Farazan pairs really well with him, especially at C6, like I said, but Farazan goes really good with Flyboy. So that's why she's on the banner, and actually Layla goes pretty well with him too, because he's, like I said, susceptible to interruption. So if you've been doing pulls and you did get Farazan and or Layla and or Beto actually as well, if you have room for Beto on there, then these characters go really well with Wanderer. So building a team with Wanderer can actually be a lot of fun, because I feel like he can slot into a lot of teams, especially like a rainbow team, so that way you can get all of the bonuses of his passive, depending on what rotation you use. Farazan goes well. You can put Wanderer in a lot of teams. That is going to be it for this video. If you have any questions, do be sure to leave it down in the comments. Myself or somebody else will be sure to answer it, and I'll see you in the next one.